We're back with another solo show adventure. Coming up,
being a super Duffy fan in, I think it was Shanghai, I got this shirt that basically has like a giant Duffy on it. His fur is made of like teddy bear fur. It's heavy. Nice. I went on a water ride and got a little weighed down in it, but I was like, I'm getting this. I'm not leaving here without it.
On this adventure, Stan talks with Alex Reif from laughingplace.com. Alex has just come back from the adventure of a lifetime. A trip so big, it's going to take 2 episodes to talk about it all. The Solo Show, as always, is brought to you by Victor Naraki Realtor, serving Disney and the greater Orlando area with celebratingflorida.com and disneyatyourdoorstep.com. Realtor Victor Naraki makes living near Walt Disney World a reality, specializing in all the communities surrounding Disney. Whether you're looking to relocate or invest in a new property, maybe you want a vacation home for your retirement. With over a decade of experience in the area, Victor will adapt to your needs, help you find the right property, or get you the best price for your property. Reach out to him today on his website, celebratingflorida.com, or at disneyatyourdoorstep.com. Follow him at Victor Naraki Realtor on Facebook, and don't forget to tell him that the Solo Show sent you.
Welcome back.
Hey Stan, sorry I've been away for so long, but I brought you a note from my mom. Dear Mr. Solo, please excuse Ken the voiceover guy for his absence for the past few weeks. During his recent move, he was unable to find his computer. He has now found his computer. It was in the fridge behind the diet soda which he never drinks. Signed, Ken the voiceover guy's mom. Broadcasting from the Solo Studios in the guacamole making room of Tortilla Joe's Mexican restaurant. Here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, the center of North America, on this little planet we call Earth, this is the Solo Show. We're back with a huge adventure. Alex Reif from laughingplace.com is in the guest host chair to talk with Stan about the most amazing trip possibly in the history of the universe. It was an adventure so big, it's going to take 2 shows to get to it all. So pop some corn and settle in for the ride, because this is just the beginning. And now, please welcome your host, the man who believed all of Juan Epstein's notes on Welcome Back Kotter. Here's Stan Solo.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Solo Show. I am Stan Solo as always, and we are back baby from our break. We had a long summer holiday. Well, I did. Ken was busy moving and packing and changing places, so that's why we've been off the air. But we're back, and we got a big one for you today. I think this is the most incredible trip I've ever heard of. Joining me today is Alex Reif?
It doesn't matter.
Is it? Am I right? Am I close?
It's a German name. Reif is the most common pronunciation I hear. It's a German name. For whatever reason, it's Reif, even though Reif. It's an E before I. It's just one of those weird things, and I totally don't care.
Okay. That's good, because I'm terrible with names.
Yeah.
Alex Reif from laughingplace.com. He went on the most incredible, was it 24 days, 12 parks, 21 time zones, 7 countries, 4 continents. Basically, you did soaring around the world with Adventures by Disney. This is the trip that when they announced it, every Disney fan in the entire planet went, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. And then the price was announced. Everybody said, I'm not doing this. But Alex and his husband went. So this is amazing. So when this was first announced, Alex, the first one, before we get too far in, tell us a little bit about laughingplace.com.
Laughingplace.com was founded in the late 90s by Doobie and Rebecca Mosley. They're husband and wife who met on Coke Corner at Disneyland. It started as one of the first just kind of Disneyland fan sites back before Disneyland.com had a lot of useful information. They would put, the times guides up each week and things like that, and anything that was new happening in the park. It's grown over the years. Now, as a site, we cover the entire Walt Disney Company. So that includes National Geographic, 20th Century Studios, ESPN, things that you don't necessarily think of as Disney branded. And we're a small but mighty team of about 10 to 12 journalists around mostly US, but we do have some international. And we all kind of have our niches. So my main beats are film and television, particularly Disney branded. I assume you're a big Star Wars fan. We have a Star Wars guy, Mike, who, you know, reads all the expanded universe stuff and knows that property in and out. We've got a Marvel guru. So thankfully I don't have to do any Wikipedia deep dives because I can just reach out to Mike and ask him what this is if I don't know something that I'm covering for Star Wars. But that's basically Laughing Place in a nutshell. So if you want a good overview of what the Walt Disney Company is doing as a whole, we're a nice source for that. And that's what kind of differentiates us from a lot of the other Disney fan sites that might cover something a little more granular, like just parks or just food or whatever the case may be.
I've been kind of addicted to laughingplace.com since I'll be honest with you, I kind of heard about it, but never really checked it out. And then Becky Mankin from MEI and Mouthfan Travel, she tweeted out that you're doing this trip. And I'm like, and she said, click here to read about it. So it was like day one when she tweeted that. So I clicked on it and I'm like, oh my, this is incredible. So I quickly subscribed to the newsletter. So now I get that daily newsletter emailed to me. And so much interesting stuff on there. Like, so every morning I'd wake up and I would read Alex's post of where he was in the world on this trip for 24 days. It was incredible. So when this was first announced, was this the type of thing like, okay, we're doing this no matter what? I don't care how much this costs. I don't care what day it is. We're making the time. We're doing it. Or was it kind of?
It was. I think like every Disney Parks fan, I mean, you always hear about the people who have done this on their own, gone all around the world and visited every park in rapid succession. And it's just one of those like almost like a bucket list, wish list item things. I had done one Adventures by Disney trip before, and my husband had done 6. And so, when it was announced that it was Adventures by Disney, we kind of already knew they're going to do all the heavy lifting for you. They're going to do hand holding. You're going to be able to do this without a lot of the work. Like a lot of the work's going to be taken off your plate. Yeah. But like you mentioned, when that price came out, it was like, oh, I don't know. So this was the kind of thing where you could book it with like a little placeholder. So that's what we did. We called our travel agent. They got us secured on the itinerary, which, we feel very lucky for. Sorry about my dog barking. We feel very lucky for because it sold out really, really fast.
It sold out in 5 days, I think.
Yeah, it was. I was alarmed by how quickly it booked up. And so, we felt grateful for that, but we also wrestled. We had about a year to decide if we were confirmed going to do it and pay the final fee. And so we were very on the fence. Not only is it a lot of money, it's a lot of time, 24 days, to take off of both our jobs. I'm not the breadwinner of the family, being a blogger. One of the things that made it super possible for me, ironically, was the writer's strike, followed by the SAG strike, because being that I cover film and television, I otherwise would have been having to do a lot of things during this trip that would have taken me away from, getting the most out of it. So it basically the stars aligned, and I'm glad we did it. But it was one of those things where, like, even after we booked it, we were like, I don't know if we're actually going to do this.
Oh, okay. I could see that. I could totally see that. For people that don't know, so the price was starting at, this is last year, $110,000. Is that per person?
The price was per person, but I would have to ask my husband because he's the finance guy. I don't know if like the second person is a lower price. I know that's often the case because that price includes like a fuller room rate. There were a few solo travelers on the trip though, and I had heard from them that there was like an additional fee to be solo. It wasn't like paying twice, but I think those prices were based on double room occupancy. So for all I know, it could be that times 2 to get a couple.
I'm very familiar with doing the solo trips, and there's always an extra fee if you're going on a solo trip.
Yeah.
This year it's gone up. It's 115,000 starting at.
Yeah.
So you got a deal. You got a bargain there.
I know. Yeah, we got in. We struck when the iron was hot. As is anything with Disney, if it proves that there's an audience, that price will change to meet demand.
Yeah, exactly. But so you guys got in there, and this is the first time they've done this. This is the inaugural ABD what do they call that? Round the World Private Jet Adventure.
Yeah, the full title, because I had to write it many times, was Disney Parks Around the World - A Private Jet Adventure.
Yeah.
And the one of the things that made this itinerary possible for ABD that's kind of funny is getting National Geographic, because this is truly the National Geographic Expeditions plane. They do around the world trips. And so they basically painted the Adventures by Disney star over the National Geographic yellow border. It was 3 adventure guides from Adventures by Disney, but then 3 professionals from Nat Geo Expeditions. So it was kind of this hodgepodge of like a Nat Geo trip meets an ABD to make this all work.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Before you left, what were you most excited about on the trip?
I had never...
I guess before we get to that, we should say, so you did the all 12 parks in the world, as well as the Taj Mahal, the pyramids in Egypt, and the Eiffel Tower in Paris.
Yep.
So that's kind of the highlights. It's the 12 parks. So what were you most excited about?
Yeah, plus 3 destinations from around the world. I had never been to the China parks before. I'd been to Disneyland Paris and Tokyo Disneyland. So kind of completing the 6 was kind of my top goal. I'm also a huge fan of Duffy, the Disney bear, which was funny to introduce a lot of our fellow travelers to Duffy before we got to Asia. And they were like, who is this bear that's all over your backpack? Why do you like this? And then
how does any Disney fan not know Duffy by now? Like,
we'll have to talk a little bit about kind of the general clientele base on this trip, because it was not quite what I expected. All very nice people, but not what I would have thought would have signed up.
Were they National Geographic fans?
No, there was backing up. There was one family who had only ever been to Disney World. Like they had not been to Disneyland before. And I was like, oh, that's interesting that you would book, this trip, not having at least tried out one other Disney park that's, nearby, like nearby, quote unquote, across the country. But, it's not hard to get from Florida to California. It's not super expensive to do that either. Whereas this is a big chunk of your finances. So I was surprised by that. Like they were like, oh, this is my first time at Disneyland. It's so small.
I'm extremely surprised by that.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there were people who like had no concept of what Duffy the Disney bear was. Whereas I had all the Alani keychains on my backpack. I'd got a set at the last D23 Expo. And since, they sent us all this Tumi luggage and, told us they want us to use this stuff during the trip, I was like, how am I going to make my same backpack everyone else has stand out? So I put my Duffy keychains all over. And people were like, what is this? Who are these bears? This is weird. And then after Tokyo, they were like, I got a Duffy thing. Like people would come up to me and be like, I got Duffy ears, or I got a bear, or I got a Stella Lou. And then
it's hard to go to Tokyo and not buy a Duffy thing. I'm believing.
I mean, if nothing else, you should go to Cape Cod and have a Duffy meal and watch the show. And then Hong Kong and Shanghai, which also have a huge Duffy and Friends presence. Like by the time we got to Paris and there was no Duffy, people were like, wait, where's Duffy? Like they missed him. And I was very much having my Duffy withdrawals by the time we got to Paris. So, that was just one of those funny things. But back to your question, I was really most excited for the China parks. I think I had maybe overhyped up Shanghai for myself and maybe undervalued Hong Kong. And I ended up liking Hong Kong better than Shanghai. And that was kind of my biggest surprise out of the trip. But that, and then also Skywalker Ranch. I mean, if you just loosely know your film history, that's a holy grail place. And getting to spend 2 nights there was the most relaxing part of the trip. And by the end of it, I wanted another Skywalker Ranch stay.
That should have almost been the end of the trip.
We had joked about that
because it seemed more relaxing than anything else you did.
It was the most comfortable bed of the trip. They had a spa and they were booking massages, so we got a massage there. So it was at the end of the trip we really needed another Skywalker Ranch retreat.
I want to talk about you guys, you posted a video, or your husband posted a video on YouTube of the pre-trip package you received. This is amazing. Tell me about this.
It was one of the, I don't think we knew when we booked it that we were getting all that stuff, but they sent a Tumi roller bag, a Tumi backpack, a Tumi travel kit. Inside of all that, they gave you an iPad that was for the presentations that Becky Klein, the president of the Walt Disney Archives, was going to be presenting, because she was our like VIP host for the trip, kind of giving historical background on everything we were doing. And also these really amazing noise canceling headphones. Like I've had Bose noise canceling headphones. I've got the Disney Mickey Mouse ones from the 90th, and they don't truly cancel noise. These things truly cancel noise. So yeah, it was all really nice. What was funny was like getting it and then looking up the value of it and being like, oh my gosh, because it was stuff I'd never owned to me before, and I didn't realize it was such a luxury brand. And then when I saw the price of the backpack, I was like, I've never owned a backpack that was more than 2 figures. Like, this is crazy.
I looked up the prices also.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure if I got the Canadian prices or if I got the US prices, but the suitcase was $1,000.
Either way,
the backpack was $1,000. You got that thing that goes on for holding your toiletries.
Yeah,
that was like $250.
Why? I don't get it. It's not leather. But yeah, I'm the kind of guy who, when you buy like $75 worth of Disney merchandise, there's like a $10 backpack, and when the last one of those incinerates, because they last about a year, they have a very short lifespan, I just switch to the next one. So that's me. That's my typical style.
Same here.
I expect this backpack to last forever. I want to be 90 and it still be in mint condition.
So speaking of suitcases and backpacks, how do you pack for a trip like this? Like, how much luggage were you allowed to bring? Did you have to use what they gave you, or were you allowed to bring your 3-piece luggage on top of that, or what's the story?
You were allowed one full-size suitcase in addition to the roller bag they sent you, the backpack, and then there was a duffel bag that they gave us on the plane that you could also store stuff in. But it also came with, some in-flight amenities, a blanket, slippers, pillow, things like that. So yeah, you were pretty limited on space. Basically, they suggested packing a week's worth of clothes, and then one of the things included in the cost was laundry services. So any of the stops along the way, you could send out for laundry, and that wasn't on your dime. Adventures by Disney covered that. So basically, we packed so that we would do laundry in Tokyo. We did laundry again in Hong Kong, and then we did laundry again in Paris. And then just for grins, we also, and a lot of people did this, sent for laundry on the last day in Disney World, because then we could just go home with all our laundry done.
Well, yeah, for sure. You might as well do that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Who wants to do laundry when they get home?
Yeah. And then in terms of souvenirs, it was pretty much whatever could fit. Patricio, who was our luggage guru, he was the one responsible for basically managing the weight of the plane. And at a certain point, he was allowing people, like, if you bought another suitcase and there was room, big asterisk, you could store it underneath the plane. However, they ran out of room. It wasn't a weight issue. It was a volume issue. Like he said, I physically can't put anything else under there. He was like, if your suitcase isn't currently expanded and you expand it, it might not make it.
Is there any room in the cockpit, perhaps?
Actually, these 2 guys who sat across from us on the plane had bought, it was at Club 33 in Shanghai. They sold a bronze version of the Shanghai Castle. They bought that came in, obviously a huge box. And so until we got to, I don't know if they mailed it from Hong Kong or India, but until we got there, they had that at their feet on the plane. And the Icelandair crew was not sticklers about everything must fit in the seat underneath the seat in front of you. Like the typical FAA regulations weren't necessarily required or followed. I don't know which.
We can't go day by day because we'll be here for 3 hours, or this would be a 3-part show. But I do want to talk about your California days. How you had a tour of Walt Disney Studios, including Walt's office, a visit to the Walt Disney Archives, the Ink and Paint Building, Marvel Studios, Disney Animation Studios, Stage 1 LED Volumetronics, also known as a Volume, which is most famously made by Mandalorian, the Lucasfilm Motion Capture Stage, Skywalker Ranch, John Williams Games Room. What was the biggest surprise in California for you?
Well, it kind of felt like 2 trips, like the Anaheim, Southern California trip, and then the Bay Area
Skywalker.
trip. So from the Southern California portion, I think for your general person on this trip, getting into Walt Disney Animation was a big deal, because that's not something that is normally offered to an outside crowd. Walt's office you can do through D23, and I think this was my 3rd time getting to go in there, but it's always a really cool experience. And obviously this time I was really hyper focused on Walt's plane, because he has models of 3 of his planes. He's got photos in the office of his family on his planes, and since we were about to go on a private jet, I was kind of hyper focused on those. The volume was incredible, and it was just funny to hear how, like, they basically showcased how it was used on the show How I Met Your Father, which you would not think as being a volume show.
Yeah.
And
did
so
they turn it on for you at all? Like, did they have it running?
They did.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So we all got to sit. They wouldn't allow photos in there, but we all got to sit in those, director chairs and basically sit in like a half circle of the volume and a partial ceiling for it. And they would turn on from Mandalorian. They turned on like Coruscant. Mm-hmm. And then talked about how they would divide the line between like the floor of the soundstage and the start of the LED, so that you wouldn't necessarily see that hard transition. For How I Met Your Father, there was a scene that took place on the Brooklyn Bridge. And so it was like a mix of live footage that was filmed of the New York skyline from New York, plus digital set extensions. And then they basically, like, while we were there, had somebody stand in front of the camera and showed how they could change the lighting. And just with the lighting off the LED, they could really change the mood of like what's seen on the face. Whereas, when you typically think of film lighting, it's like a million different lights that all do different things to get the look that the director or cinematographer desires on their screen. It was really cool.
Well, especially with a character like the Mandalorian who's wearing basically a reflective costume. you want to have the stuff reflecting off him that's supposed to be there, not CGI put in afterwards. It's a lot.
Yeah. Well, and piggybacking off of that, like jumping forward to the Lucasfilm motion capture stage, one of the things they did was show us how they'll, basically double in for the Mandalorian. So, one of those guys with the ping pong balls all over his body was walking around. And then on the screen, we were watching in real time, this really nicely rendered Mandalorian. And like you said, the entire CG environment is refracting off all of the chrome on his helmet. I'm sorry, not chrome, all the Beskar. Thank you. Sorry, someone's going to come for me. And so it was really cool. And people who were there on the trip, I'm a huge film nerd and like to know how all the effects are made. But some people didn't. And so they were like, oh, I can't watch the show again the same way. Because I think a lot of people just assume it's Pedro Pascal in a helmet on set the whole entire time. And oftentimes it's A, not him in the costume on set, and then B, a fully CG character sometimes. So you really don't know. They do it so well that you aren't taken out of the story and thinking like, that's a CG version. But it was neat to see all that. That was really cool. Getting to go to Marvel Studios. My understanding was this is the first time Marvel Studios has ever let like a fan group in. Like if you're not working, if you're not having a meeting, if you're not a Chris Evans or a Chris Pratt or a Chris Hemsworth or a Chris, you don't get to go there. So that was really, really cool. They let us take pictures, which was a huge surprise. I was expecting, them to put our phones into a magnetic bag and not be able to touch them until we got out of there. And then the other thing that was neat was, they were cycling out comics from their library, their like little research library. So they had them spread out on the table, and it was just, grab a free comic that's been thumbed through by maybe Kevin Feige or the Kevin Feige robot from She-Hulk. It was just really neat.
Which comic did you grab?
So I was an X-Men kid. Like my gateway drug into Marvel was the animated TV show from the 90s. It wasn't like a core X-Men, but it was one of the spin-offs. I can't remember which one, but I just grabbed it because it was like, okay, it's X-Men, and that's my like core memory Marvel property.
Yeah. It didn't have circles in it by Kevin Feige saying we got to have this scene.
I thumbed through it, and no, I didn't see. I was looking like, are they going to use Iceman in anything? Or like I know Wiccan is coming up in House of Harkness, and then I keep waiting for them to tease Hulkling, and maybe someday in the future we'll get Wiccan and Hulkling in the MCU. So I was like, oh, is Wiccan or Hulkling in this one, or are they gonna?
Well, keep in mind these are the ones they're throwing away, so they don't want these. They gave.
I know. Yeah, these are the ones that have not survived the purge.
Okay, so in your blog, you mentioned the John Williams game room. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah. So long story short, for Skywalker Ranch, this was the place. If you watch the bonus features on episodes 1 through 3, this is that arts and crafts building that's on George Lucas's property where it was basically offices. Like ILM was there, Skywalker Sound was there. After Disney's acquisition of Lucasfilm, they pulled out of all that office space because George Lucas retained that property. And so George Lucas transformed it into this like filmmaker retreat. That's what it's there for. So I think his idea would be like, let's say Steven Spielberg and the entire team planning Dial of Destiny would come to Skywalker Ranch, have a communal space where they can all get together and plan out, the film and write it or storyboard it or whatever. So it's lots of meeting rooms and lots of communal spaces. Obviously, it's on the ranch, so like all the food is incredible. Like we were literally eating a cow that was walking around earlier that day, and I apologize to any vegetarians or vegans listening if this upsets you. And then drinking, Skywalker Ranch wine. And I didn't realize that George has vineyards. He has one in Italy and one in France as well, in addition to the California brand. That was just, a gap in my Skywalker Vineyards knowledge. So, that was really cool. Like everything was paired with a Skywalker wine. His movie poster collection, as I'm sure is incredible. And so it was all this original international poster artwork. I went around, I probably annoyed people, but I was walking down any hallway that wasn't, blocked off to just look at all the posters, finding posters of not only Disney things, but some of my favorite movies. There was a really bizarre Wizard of Oz one. I think it was from maybe an Asia country. And Dorothy's dress was pink and the Emerald City was like a medieval castle on this artwork. Oh, wow. And it was like just really bizarre, really interesting to see.
It's so heartbreaking that you can't take pictures of these things.
It was really, really tough. Yeah, I even asked because, they gave us the pin once we get there, the pin of the day. So I went to the front desk and I was like, I don't want to break your rules, but like they gave us this. Am I allowed to put this on a wooden table that could be anywhere in the world and take a photo close up of the pin? And they were like, nope, you got to take it outside. And if you're capturing like any of the grounds, you have to be in the photo. So I was like, well, yeah. So the one photo I posted from there was my husband and I with the Yoda statue, who's the same Yoda statue that's on the fountain outside of Lucasfilm in the Presidio in San Francisco, just like in the bushes. And one of the stories I had always heard back when it was a film production company was, the Lucasfilm archives are there on the property and in some giant garage. I think there's a movie about nerds trying to break in and steal something. And then I had always heard they had a TikTok from Return to Oz just like out in the open, and it was like the one film artifact that was out there, and I'm a big Wizard of Oz fan, so I was looking for TikTok. I had like Googled, because there's photos of TikTok at Skywalker Ranch, and I was trying to find like where is this outdoor space where TikTok might be. And then I asked somebody and they were like, oh, when Disney bought Lucasfilm, that was moved back over to the archives. So they're like, that's now, in mothballs in a wooden crate.
So is the game room an actual game room, or is it?
Sorry. Yeah, I completely got off topic. Yeah. So the game room is like a game room. It's,
foosball and pool and or video games and stuff like that.
I didn't see video games, but like I think the purpose is like disconnect from screens. But yes, yeah, poker tables, pool tables, foosball, all manner of board games, like any of the classics, Clue, Monopoly, Sorry, all of those games. And I think it's just named after John Williams as like an homage to him. But I don't think it was necessarily like John Williams made the game room. But I was obviously walking in there
because you don't associate games with John Williams. It just seems like weird.
Yeah,
I never heard that before. Okay.
Yeah, totally. And then right outside that corridor was like George Lucas's collection of Donald Duck Shorts international movie posters. So it was like, so cool. It was really awesome. It was amazing.
Yeah. So you're talking about having dinner and eating a cow. You had some amazing dinners on this trip. One of the dinners was in the Lincoln Theater, the Skywalker Ranch, obviously, Club 33 in Japan, on a junk boat in Hong Kong. You had dinner basically in the shadows of the pyramids of Egypt.
Yeah.
Lunch on the Eiffel Tower. Was there a moment when you were, because the dinners is a kind of a time you get a chance to relax and sit back for a bit, and was there a time you're like, this is unbelievable, like this is magical? Like, was there a dinner that really stood out for you?
Yes. I mean, all of the dinners were great. This is going to sound awful, but the probably my favorite dinner
McDonald's down at Paris.
Right. No, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, but it's bad. It was our welcome dinner to Disney World. It was just in a Grand Floridian ballroom, but it was like your welcome back to America meal. So it included chicken tenders, mac and cheese, like it was a comfort food meal. And after having been away for so long, that was really, really nice to have. And that's like, in retrospect, looking back at the trip, I don't know why, but that one really stands out as like probably my favorite dinner, even though it's wrong. Also, the dinner they did for us in the American Adventure Rotunda on the last night was really cool, just because the menu items were from all over Disney World. Like, it was buffet style. And one of the things I'd never tried, because the line is always insane, and I was like, they can't be that good, are those cheeseburger spring rolls in Adventureland. They had those, no wait, just walk up, put as many of them on a plate as you want. And then there was that like mayonnaise ketchup mix of a sauce to dip them in. And so I was like, well, I'm going to have 3. Or the dessert there, it was like an ice cream sundae with caramelized churros on top, or a Dole Whip inspired cream puff, or a Mickey waffle whoopie pie. Like, that was really cool. I thought that was really cool.
Brilliant idea. Disney World should have that as a buffet somewhere.
Yes,
Disney Springs, come on, open it up.
Right. Like, hey, don't like to wait for the pierogies. Here's the Food and Wine Festival like buffet dinner at
Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing. That's a
I know
brilliant
they're
idea.
leaving money on the table, Stan. We should run the place.
No kidding. You have turkey legs, and you can have everything all in one location.
Yes.
The dinner that you had in Paris at Chef Remy, not so much the dinner itself, but afterwards when you left, that seemed very cool.
Yeah, it was cool. It was one of those things where I think they had maybe overhyped what the after dinner experience would be, because they were branding it as like unprecedented, never before done. And when Disney uses those kinds of words, your imagination really runs wild. Like, speculations included our names on Main Street windows in Disneyland Paris Park, or which, like, why? Or like a lifetime pass to Disneyland Paris. It's like something they've never done before. And what it really was this really sweet Parisian flash mob moment. It was almost like, an American in Paris come to life. Live singer. She sang 3 songs. They had, these really nice dancer couples behind them. And then that ended with, French beret Mickey making a surprise appearance. And we got photos with him. There were champagne toasts. They were in these really nice plastic, but really nice looking Disneyland Paris 30th anniversary stemware that we all got to keep. So it was a really nice toast to our time at Paris in general, and specifically the Disneyland Paris Resort.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. But yeah, you're right. When they build it up and when you get out there,
it's like one D23 Expo. They had it was a top secret presentation, and so everyone signed up for the pass to it because they wouldn't tell you what it was. And then when people got in, it was the announcement of One Day at Disney, that coffee table book / Disney Plus short form series, and people walked out of that really underwhelmed. Like, I thought this was going to be something big. You had to keep it under wraps, top secret. So anytime
actually, I was at that one as well.
So the response was like, I wanted something more out of this. So it was kind of that was kind of the response to it, which I think is sad, because it wouldn't have been met that way had it just been like,
if it just happened.
Got a nice, if it would have just been like, you ride the Ratatouille ride after dinner, and you're the last ones to ride it for the day, and when you come out, stick around for a champagne toast and then surprise us with the other thing. Don't like bill it as more than it was. But yes, no, that was really, it was a really sweet send off.
Yeah.
And I purposely in my write up didn't include like, they promised the world, I was just like, but here's what happened. And so
we get to take home one of the drones that are used in the show.
I would have died.
No, you don't.
No. I would have been like bribing other people to give me multiple so I can make them do something. Because a drone in itself does not make a party make. But if you have 5 or 6,
so you got the champagne glasses. You got some amazing gifts on this trip. I think the one that stands out to me the most, even though they spelled your name wrong, was the bottle.
And it's so funny because they got my name wrong, but I didn't notice because I'm a little bit borderline dyslexic, and it's one of those things where if you make the misspelling in the middle of a word, you're less likely to notice it. So they just missed the E in the end of Alexander, I think it was. And so it was funny. They were so apologetic about it, and they were like, keep that one and we're going to mail you another. And I was like, it's really fine. But yeah, that was a beautiful gift. The plate that they gave us in Agra, that's made of the same marble and same types of stones that are in the Taj Mahal, I thought was really meaningful, especially after having gone and watched a demonstration of how that was done then, how this, small family is still continuing that tradition to this day. That was a really meaningful gift. I think my favorite of the Disney ones was the 30th anniversary name, like it's a paperweight, but it's of a name tag with your name on it from Disneyland Paris. That was really cool too.
Yeah. So it seemed like almost every hotel stay there was a nice gift given. You're given, I think at my count it was 40 pins altogether.
I think it might have been 25. Typically Adventures by Disney, it's one a day. There were some days, especially with the time zone changes, where technically we didn't get one, and then the next day we got two. And then there was like a finisher pin at the end, like a bonus surprise one.
Well, you got that one
that was nice.
You got the package that had the 3 pins in it.
Yeah. So and there's a
pin. I counted 40 pins.
yeah. So there were, I guess, a difference between like the Adventures by Disney pin of the day and other pins that we were given. And so in Shanghai at their Club 33, I think it was the VP of the park came around with this really nice trio of pins that were like Chinese calligraphy style icons from the park, which were beautiful. Yeah, and so then I think one of the things they gave you too is like a pouch or like a place to put all the pins. Yeah, it's funny. It's themed to a Disneyland ticket book, and on the back of it, I'm assuming they sell it there. It has the Walt Disney Imagineering logo on it, so I'm assuming it's a Mickey's of Glendale, pin book. But obviously, this trip being so long, typically Adventures by Disney, you just put the pins on your lanyard. Well, we'd all be put down and running out of room. So they gave us this nice unraveling book to kind of put them all in. What was funny was they didn't tell us what that was, and it was just in our room. So like I thought it was like a really small garment bag. I was like, fit in this, you know what I mean? It was one of those things to it looked like a mini version of those things you roll up your dress shirts in to avoid them getting wrinkled in a suitcase. So it was funny. Like at dinner, people were like, "What is this?" And they were like, "It's a pin bag. Here's your first pin. Like put your pins in."
That's funny.
Yeah.
So again, like luggage space has got to be a premium at this point, because you're given all these gifts, you're given all these pins, you want to take stuff. I'm sure you're picking up souvenirs along the way.
So one of the ways operationally this worked was at each destination there was an Adventures by Disney desk person who stayed in the hotel and was available to you. They helped with pre-check-in, so for the most part when we arrived our rooms were ready, our room keys were printed, we didn't have to stop at a desk, fill things out. If you had incidentals you could go and put your card on file at your leisure, and they would handle shipping for you. The one caveat was they strongly recommended that you not ship from Shanghai. You could have if you wanted to, but they made it pretty clear, odds are the government's going to go through whatever you're shipping. You might not get all of it. You might not get it at all. They were very honest about those kinds of things. And Egypt was another one. They said, best not to ship from Egypt. So things we bought in Shanghai, we held until Hong Kong. And it was pretty easy and convenient. They would give you a box, you take it to your room, you stuff everything in it. You could call Bell Services to come and pick up the box and send it down to the desk for you if you didn't want to carry it back down. And then everything was here when we got back. I was surprised by that. So all my Duffy outfits were already waiting for me. I
was going to ask you, did you get souvenirs at every park, at every stop?
For the most part. What's funny is I don't think I bought a single thing at Disney World, which is fine because I embarrassing go there fairly frequently. Sorry about the squeaky toy. It's my dog again.
Don't hear anything.
Oh, okay, cool. I did. Yeah, absolutely. I tried to always get a shirt with the parks or the resort's name on it somewhere, which was impossible in Tokyo for a person of American size. So okay. Yeah. They were out of everything. The sizing works a little bit different there, but LL, which would be our equivalent of large, sold out of every single t-shirt except a really ugly hot pink Little Mermaid shirt. Was the only thing, and I decided not to get it because I was not going to wear it.
I'm sure we'll find something else before we leave.
Yeah, but no, and just being a super Duffy fan in I think it was Shanghai, I got this shirt that basically has a giant Duffy on it. His fur is made of teddy bear fur. It's heavy. Nice. I went on a water ride and got a little weighed down in it, but I was like, oh, I'm getting this. I'm not leaving here without it.
That's cool.
And now a pause for station identification.
We put the dis in dysfunctional here on The Solo Show.
Here's Ken.
If you have a brilliant idea for a future edition of The Solo Show and would like to take your turn in the guest host's chair, then drop us an email at thesoloshow01@gmail.com. Tell us your idea for the show, and we'll contact you about a date and a time for you to join us. If you would just like to keep the conversation going or have a comment about a previous show, then visit us on Facebook at The Solo Show. All logos, sounds, and songs that are made by and for Disney and its affiliates are owned solely by the Disney Corporation and are not, nor are they intended to be, the ownership of The Solo Show podcast. We hope you'll join us for the next adventure on The Solo Show. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.